When Fragonard completed this painting, The Fountain of Love, around 1785, he buried a kind of secret in it. Painted beneath the image of two lovers running side by side toward the fountain are some different compositional details that the artist developed early on. As the painting progressed, he revised the figures' relationship to one another, painting over parts of his initial design. He eventually copied the finished work in the form of a second painting, one that became famous and is now in London's Wallace collection. Little was ever known about the first painting, let alone that it was in fact the origin of Fragonard's renowned image. This only came to light recently when art and science joined forces to reveal the hidden story of the Fountain of Love. When the Getty Museum purchased the then lesser known of the two paintings, curator Scott Schaefer and conservator Mark Leonard collaborated to learn more about it. Mark Leonard, conservator of paintings.
The first thing that we did when the painting arrived was to take an X-ray. X-rays are a means of looking at underlying layers.
Scott Schaefer, curator of paintings.
Doing an X-ray of a painting does allow us to see the various changes that took place as the artwork was being painted. It's invaluable to know how the artist thought, and that process of the artist working out a composition is interesting for us to know about, and it's not something we would have any access to other than through an X-ray.
And the X-ray produced some really surprising results. We found one very important change right at the center of the picture. Whereas now on the surface, we see the two lovers in profile rushing towards the fountain and the cup being offered to the male figure. In the X-ray, we see that the male head is actually looking back towards the female head. So it's a fairly big iconographical change that took place.
It is very obvious in the X-ray that they were looking at each other, he looking at her, lovingly, but it was awkward.
Fragonard must have seen room for improvement and then changed the work accordingly. When a work shows detectable evidence of an alteration by the artist, it's known as a pentimento. In this case, the pentimento is startling, not just because it illustrates Fragonard's artistic process, but because it also disproves everyone's prior assumption that the renowned Wallace Collection painting was the prime version.
After we had done our technical studies and completed the cleaning and the restoration, we became increasingly convinced that our picture was the first version of the composition, because Fragonard was working out all of these ideas quite freely, in a quite uninhibited manner, on the surface of our painting. The more you can learn about a work of art in all of its aspects, the deeper your understanding of it can be.
Today, over 200 years after Fragonard completed the painting, the collaboration between art and science lets us look over the artist's shoulder as the painting evolved on his easel.